A small hand pressed against a man's bare chest in the dead of night. Cold, trembling, wet from melted snow. His eyes snapped open. He could not see her face. He could only feel her pressed against him, breathing fast and terrified. His right hand closed around his rifle before his mind caught up. She did not move. She did not speak. She only shook against him, her bare feet like ice on his calf. He smelled wood smoke and pine, and something else. Then he saw the long black braid on his pillow. The cowboy's name was Eli Carter, 26 years old. 3 days out from the nearest town. 1 blanket, 1 rifle, 1 fire burning low. What stopped his heart was not the knife at her hip. It was what he saw in her eyes when she turned her face toward him. Stay with me on this one. Morning came slow. The fire was almost dead. He had lain there through the rest of the night with his rifle on his chest, too aware of the body beside his. She had not moved. He had to think. Fast. 3 days back, his outfit had crossed the Pecos with 200 head of cattle. The trail boss had been laughing about how easy the drive was going. Then the storm hit. Snow so thick he could not see the rump of his own horse. The herd scattered. 2 riders were lost. Eli was thrown from his saddle into a draw. When he climbed out, his horse was gone and the world was white in every direction. He had walked half a day before he found the line shack. It was no kind of home. 1 room, 1 bunk, a door that closed but did not lock. Built 30 years back by some outfit that had since gone broke. Forgotten by everyone but the men who needed it. That had been 2 days ago. He had food for 4 more days. A rifle, 10 rounds. And now, somehow, a woman. He turned his head on the pillow. She was right there, 6 inches from his face. A smear of dried blood on her temple he had not seen in the dark. A long thin braid ran down past her shoulder. She wore a deerskin dress, soaked through. Her hands were clenched into fists. Patchy. He was sure of it. He did not know how she had crossed the snow. He did not know what she was running from. He only knew she had crawled into his bed and slept. That meant she had judged him the lesser danger of whatever waited outside. That was a hard thing to sit with. Eli got up slow. He pulled on his boots, threw a stick on the fire, set a pot of snow on the stove. Then he stood at the small frosted window and looked out. No tracks. The wind had erased everything. Behind him she stirred. He turned. Her eyes were open, watching him. She did not speak. He did not speak. She had pulled the blanket up to her chin. The knife at her hip was gone now. She had taken it to bed with her. He could see her hand on the handle under the wool. He raised both palms. Slow. I am not going to hurt you, he said. I am not going to do anything. She did not understand the words, but something in her shoulders dropped a 1/4 inch. She understood the tone. He pointed at the pot, pointed at her, made a drinking motion. She nodded once. That was the first conversation they had. He brought her a tin cup of warm water. She took it with the hand that was not on the knife. She drank. Her hand shook so bad the water went down the front of her dress. He looked away, gave her that. Then he saw the blood. A dark stain on the blanket, low on her side. Not from the cut on her head. Something deeper. Something older that had opened up in the night. She saw him see it. Her eyes went hard. She gripped the knife. Eli sat down slow on the floor at the foot of the bunk. Hands open on his knees. He did not get up. He did not reach for the rifle. He just sat there and waited. A long minute passed. Then another. After a while she let go of the knife. She had decided in that moment to live. Naughty, she said. Small voice. Almost not a sound. She put one hand against her own chest. He pointed at himself. Eli. She tried it. Ellie. Yeah, he said. That's right. He moved closer. Slow. Showed her the cloth he had torn from his other shirt. She watched him. She did not flinch when he peeled back the side of her dress. The wound was deep, a cut across her ribs, sewn once with sinew and now torn open. Old blood and new. He cleaned it with melted snow. He bound it tight. She did not cry out. Not once. When he was done, she touched his wrist. 2 fingers. Light. Then she slept. Outside, the snow kept coming. Eli sat at the table and watched her sleep. He had never seen anything like her. Not the blood. Not the bruises. Not the fact that a woman had crawled half-dead into his bed. He had seen all those things before. What he had not seen was the calm of her. The way she had lain against him in the dark and slept through what could have been the last hour of her life. A person did not do that unless they were at the end of something. He did not know what she had run from, but he was going to find out. The storm broke on the 3rd day. She slept most of the time. He kept the fire going. He gave her water and the last of the dried beef and the broth he made by boiling jerky in melted snow. On the 2nd day she sat up, reached for the cloth on her ribs, showed him by gesture how to tie it tighter. He retied it. She nodded. On the 3rd day, she got out of the bunk on her own. She walked slow. 3 steps to the table, 3 steps back. She held one hand against her side the whole time. But she walked. He cooked beans. She showed him how to grind dried sage between 2 stones. They put the sage in the beans. The beans tasted better. They learned 8 words. Water, fire, eat, sleep, naughty, Eli, cold, knife. That last one she taught him by laying her knife on the table and pointing. He did not know exactly what she meant by it. Maybe she meant, "This is what I will do if you cross the line." Maybe she meant, "This is who I am." Maybe both. He understood her better than he understood the words. Some things travel through the eyes. On the 4th morning, the sun came out. The sky was so blue it hurt. The snow on the pines was so white it hurt. Naughty stood at the door of the cabin and looked at the world like she had never seen it. She had not stepped outside in 4 days. Eli watched her stand there in his too big wool shirt, the dress drying by the fire. She breathed in the cold air, closed her eyes, did not move for a long time. Then she came back inside and sat down by the stove and put her hands flat against the warm metal and began to cry without sound. He did not know what to do. He sat down across from her. He did not touch her. He just sat there. After a while she stopped and she looked at him and she said something in Apache. A long sentence. Soft. He did not understand a word of it. But she said it like a person putting down a heavy thing. That was the moment he would think later that something started. That afternoon he heard the hoofbeats. 3 horses. Coming up through the snow from the south. Slow. The kind of slow that is patient and certain. The kind that means a man is reading the ground. Eli was at the woodpile. He froze. Naughty was inside. She heard them too. He could feel it even through the wall. The horses came over the rise. 3 men. White, heavy coats, rifles across their saddles, beards. The middle one had a face Eli did not like. Flat eyes, the kind that look at a man and see meat. The other 2 were younger, hungrier. "You there," the middle one called. "Cabin." Eli set the axe down slow. "Howdy," he said. The 3 men reined up 20 feet from him. The middle one leaned on his saddle horn. "You alone here?" "I am." "Been alone how long?" "4 days." "Storm caught you?" "It did." The middle one nodded. He looked at the door of the cabin. He looked at the chimney. He looked at the snow at Eli's feet. "You see anybody come through?" "No, sir." "Anybody at all?" "Not a soul. The storm covered everything. Ain't been tracks since I got here." "You sure about that?" "I am sure." The middle one's eyes did not move from Eli's face. "We're looking for an Apache woman," he said. "Wounded. About this tall. Black braid. She killed a man 4 nights back. White man. Friend of ours. Name of Vernon. Cut his throat while he slept." Eli kept his face flat. Have not seen her, he said. No, no. Mind if we look in your cabin? Have at it. He stood aside. The middle man got down off his horse. The other two stayed mounted, rifles ready. The man went to the door, pushed it open, stepped in. Eli waited. He could hear the man's boots on the wood floor, heard him pull back the blanket on the bunk, heard him kick the pile of clothes in the corner, heard him open the small stove door and look at the fire. Then silence. Long silence. Then boots coming back. The man stepped out. Funny thing, he said. 2 cups on your table. Eli did not blink. I'm a tidy man, he said. I wash one when I am done. I let the other dry. The man looked at him. Long look. Tidy man. Yes, sir. The man spat in the snow. Then he climbed back on his horse. If you see her, he said, you light a fire. Big one. Green wood, lots of smoke. We will see it from the valley. There is $100 in it for you. $100. American. All right. You don't help her, cowboy. You hear me? She is not a woman. She is a knife with hair. She killed a good man. We are going to hang her in the next town and there will be a crowd. Eli said nothing. The 3 men turned their horses and rode back down through the snow the way they had come. He stood there until he could no longer hear the hoofbeats. Then he went inside. She was in the corner behind the stove, curled small, the knife in her hand. Her eyes were huge. He closed the door, slid the bolt across. He came over slow, knelt down, showed her his empty hands. They are gone, he said. She did not understand the words, but she understood his face. She lowered the knife. He sat down on the floor next to her, did not touch her, just sat there. After a long while she leaned her head, very lightly, against his shoulder. He did not move. Outside the sun went down. He boiled water. He made the broth. They ate together at the small table. She did not look up from her bowl. He did not look up from his. When she was done, she stood. She walked over to him. She put 2 fingers against his cheek, held them there. She did not say anything. She did not need to. She slept beside him that night, not against him, not pressed to him like the first time. She lay on the far edge of the bunk and turned her face to the wall and slept the deep sleep of a person who has decided to live. He lay awake until the fire died. Then he slept too. The voice came at dawn. A man's voice, outside the cabin, speaking Apache. Noddy sat up so fast Eli felt the bunk shake. He came awake with his rifle in his hand. He could not understand a word the voice was saying, but he understood the tone. It was not the tone of a stranger. The voice called a name. Noddy. She did not breathe. The voice called again. 3 sentences. Soft, patient. The voice of a man who is sure he has found what he came for and is in no hurry. Noddy was looking at the door now. She was a stone. Eli touched her wrist. She turned her head. Her eyes were not afraid. They were broken. That was a different thing. He had seen women afraid. He had seen women angry. He had not seen this. This was a woman who had thought she had outrun something and found out, in 1 second, that she had not. The voice spoke again. Longer this time. Almost a song. Tears came down her face. She did not blink. She did not wipe them. Who? Eli whispered. She understood the question. She put both hands flat against her chest. Then she pointed at the door. Then she made a cutting motion across her own throat. She mimed a man falling. She put her hand against her belly. She pointed at the door again, and she said one word. Brother. Eli understood now. The man outside was not just an Apache. He was kin. By marriage. By blood. By something that ran deeper than the white men with their $100 bounty. He was the brother of the husband she did not have anymore. The voice spoke again. Eli did not need the words. He could hear the grief in them. He could hear the rage. He could hear a man who had ridden through a blizzard with one purpose burning in him. Nadi reached for her dress. Eli caught her wrist. She looked at him. "No," he said. She pulled away, got the dress on over her shoulder, reached for her boots. "Nadi." "No." She looked at him with eyes that were 1,000 years old. She said something in Apache, a short sentence. He did not know the words, but he knew she was saying, "This is mine. This is not yours. Stay out of it." She stood up. He stood up faster. He moved between her and the door. She tried to push past him. She was small. He was not. He held his ground. Outside, the voice called her name again. Closer now. The brother had moved up to the porch. She stopped pushing. She looked at Eli. "He will kill me," she said. In English. Eli did not breathe for one full second. She had been saving it. All those days. She had been listening. She had known the words. "Then we run," he said. She shook her head. "He will track. Then we lead him somewhere we want him." She stared at him. Why? That was the question. He did not have an answer. He had a barnboard cabin and 10 rounds and a sack of beans. He had no claim on her. He had no claim on this thing. He should have stepped aside and let her walk out the door and become a memory. But he could not. "Because I am not letting you go out there alone," he said. She closed her eyes. Tear ran down. She nodded once. "And here, friend, if you have stayed with me this long, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. This story is about to get harder, and I want you with me when it does." Eli loaded the rifle. He had 10 rounds. He had a knife in his boot. He had a Colt with 3 bullets in it. He had a small woman with a deep wound who had killed at least 1 man already. And outside the door he had 2 enemies. Maybe 3. Maybe an army. He looked at Nadi. She was tying her braid back with a piece of leather cord. "Window," he said. "Yes." He moved to the small frosted pane at the back of the cabin. He pried it open. Cold air poured in. The drift outside was waist-deep. He turned to her. "You first." She shook her head. She pointed at the door, then at the window, then at herself, then at the door. "He will hear me go through." He understood. She would distract. He would slip out. "No," he said. "We go together." "Eli." The way she said his name, he stopped arguing. "He will not kill me yet. He will talk first. That is our way. While he talks, you go through the window. You take the rifle. You go up behind him. Then we both have a chance." He stared at her. "You speak English." "Some." "How long?" "Always." He did not know what to do with that. "Go," she said. She walked to the door. She put her hand on the bolt. She looked back at him once. "Eli, if he kills me, you do not stay. You run. You go far. Promise." "No." "Promise." "No." She slid the bolt. The door opened. She walked out into the snow. And Eli went out the back window. He dropped into the drift. The cold bit through his boots. He stayed low. He could hear them now. Nadi's voice. Steady. The brother's voice. Deeper. Slower. They were 10 feet apart on the front porch. He could hear the brother breathing. He moved around the side of the cabin. Rifle across his arm. He cut wide through the trees. The snow came up to his thighs in places. He could not be quiet. He prayed the brother was not listening for him. Then he heard the brother say one word. Sharp. Then a sound he knew. A blade leaving a sheath. Eli came around the corner. The brother had Nadi by the hair. He had pulled her head back. The knife was at her throat. Eli raised the rifle. "Drop it." The brother did not turn. He could not see who was speaking, but he understood the word. He did not drop the knife. He spoke to Nadi instead. "Apache." 3 sentences. Nadi's eyes met Eli's. "He says if you shoot him, he cuts me first," she said. Her voice was flat. "All right. He says I shamed our family." He says my husband took his own life because of me. All right. He says I am dead already. Eli took a slow step forward. You tell him this, Eli said. You tell him I do not know what happened in his family. I do not know what is true. But I have lived with this woman for 4 days. I have seen her. I know who is at the end of his rope and who is not. And his brother. His brother killed himself because of something. But I will tell you what. It was not because she shamed him. Eli, tell him. She told him. The brother's eyes flicked to Eli for the first time. The blade did not move from her throat. He spoke. A long sentence. He says I should tell the truth, she said. Then tell it. She closed her eyes. She told it. She told it in Apache, looking at the brother, the words coming slow and then fast and then slow again. He listened. He did not move. The knife stayed at her throat, but his hand was shaking now. She told him about Vernon, the white trader who had come to their camp 2 months back to trade rifles. She told him how Vernon had cornered her at the river when she was alone. She told him what Vernon had done. She told him how she had not told her husband, how she had been too ashamed. She told him how Vernon had come back 2 more times, how she had begun to disappear inside her own body. She told him how her husband had found out, not from her, from a Mexican boy in the camp who had seen. She told him how her husband had not believed her when she said she had not wanted it, how he had called her a name, how he had walked out of the lodge and put his rifle in his mouth. She told him how she had run to Vernon's wagon with her knife, how she had cut his throat in his sleep with the same knife her husband had given her on the day they were married. She told him she did not regret it. She told him she would do it again. The brother stood very still. A long time passed. He lowered the knife. He let go of her hair. He took 2 steps back. Then he sat down in the snow and put his face in his hands. Eli lowered the rifle. Noddy did not move. Nobody said anything for what felt like an hour but was probably 1 minute. Then they heard the hoofbeats. 3 horses. The white men were back. The brother lifted his face. He looked at Noddy. Then he looked at Eli. And in his eyes Eli saw something change. Something that had been one thing was now another. The brother stood up. He picked up his knife. He pointed at the trees. He says we go to cover, Noddy said. All right. The 3 of them ran for the pines. The white men came around the bend just as Eli reached the treeline. They saw the empty porch. They saw the open door of the cabin. The middle one, the flat-eyed one, started to laugh. Cowboy, he called. Tidy Cowboy, where is our knife with hair? Eli was on one knee behind a downed pine. He sighted down the rifle. The brother was 20 feet to his left, knife out, eyes on the men. Noddy was behind both of them, low. The middle man saw Eli's barrel before Eli pulled the trigger. He yanked his rifle up. Eli fired first. The man went off his horse backwards. The other 2 fired wild into the trees. Eli ducked. Bark exploded over his head. The brother moved. Eli had never seen a man move like that. The brother went sideways through the snow at a dead run, low to the ground, and came up under the second rider's stirrup with his knife. The horse screamed and reared. The rider came down. The knife went in twice. The 3rd man wheeled his horse and ran. Eli sighted. Eli fired. The man fell out of the saddle into the snow and did not get up. Silence. Whined through the pines. A horse, riderless, walked in a slow circle. The brother stood up, looked at Eli across the dead men. He nodded. Once. Eli nodded back. Noddy came up out of the snow. She was shaking again, but not from cold. The brother said something to her. Soft. She answered. Soft. He touched her cheek with his thumb. The same cheek where she had a bruise that had not yet faded. Then he walked to his horse. He swung up. He looked at her one more time. He said one word. Live. He rode away into the pines and did not look back. They buried the three men in a long shallow hole at the edge of the trees. The ground was too frozen for anything deeper. Eli broke through the crust with the axe. Nadi cleared the snow. She did not speak while they worked. Neither did he. They walked back to the cabin together as the sun went down. He boiled water. She put the sage in. They ate at the small table. That night she pressed against him in the bunk. Not for warmth this time, or maybe for warmth. He could not tell anymore where one thing ended and another thing began. He put his arm around her. She put her hand on his chest, flat, like the first night. This time it was not cold. It was not trembling. It was not wet from melted snow. This time it was only a hand. He fell asleep. He did not dream. The next morning the sun was high and the snow was beginning to melt. Water dripped from the eaves of the cabin. The air smelled like spring even though spring was still a month off. Eli stood at the window and watched the icicles let go. Eli, he turned. She was sitting at the table, cloth in her hands, sewing. Come. He came over. She handed him a strip of leather she had cut from her own dress. She had worked sinew through it in a pattern. A small star, blue beads on the points. 4 of them. She must have had the beads in a pocket the whole time. She tied it around his wrist. For you, she said. What does it mean? She thought about that. It means you do not stand alone. He looked at the small star. He did not have any words. He thought about the trail boss. He thought about the cattle drive he was supposed to be part of. He thought about the herd somewhere south, and the men who had given him up for dead. He thought about Texas, and the small house his sister kept on the edge of San Antonio. He thought about all the places a man like him was supposed to go. None of them was the right place anymore. Nadi. Yes. We can't go to a town. I know. They will hang you. The white law. Yes. And you can't go home. No. My people will not have you. Yours will not have you. No. So. She waited. So we go where there is nobody, he said. We go west. Across the mountains. There are places out there. I have heard of them. Country a man can be lost in. We go. Together. Together. She nodded once. The way she nodded that first morning when he had pointed at the cup. A small thing. The whole world in it. They stayed in the cabin 3 more weeks. The snow melted. He hunted. She gathered roots from places she knew about that he did not. They learned each other's words. He learned hers faster than she learned his, but only because she had already known some of his. He asked her one night why she had crawled into his bed that first night. Cold, she said. Just cold. She thought about it. And, I saw you through the window, 2 days before I came. You were splitting wood. You did not look mean. Apache woman knows the look of a mean man. I watched you a long time. I picked you. You did not pick me. Remember that, Eli Carter. I picked you. He laughed for the first time in a year. You will be careful with me, she said. Always. And I will be careful with you. All right. She came and sat next to him on the bench by the fire. She put her head against his shoulder. They stayed like that a long time. He had forgotten what it was for. The warmth of another person in a quiet room. On the day they left the cabin, he stood in the doorway and looked back at it once. The bunk where she had crawled in next to him in the dark. The stove where she had ground sage between 2 stones. The door where the brother had stood with a knife at her throat. The small frosted window where he had gone out into the snow with a rifle and 10 rounds and no good reason except one. He closed the door. He did not lock it. There was no lock. They got on his horse. He had found the horse 2 days back, drifted up against a fence in the next draw, half-starved, alive. They rode west. They did not look back. They crossed the high passes when the snow finally let them. They followed rivers that no map had a name for. They slept under the same blanket every night. He learned to set traps the way her people set them. She learned to ride sitting forward in the saddle the way a man rides. By summer they had reached country he did not know the name of, and they stopped there, and they built a small place at the edge of a meadow where the elk came down at dusk. A man much older than Eli would say, years later, that the strangest thing about that winter was not that an Apache woman had crawled into a cowboy's bed. The strangest thing was what she had crawled out into. A life. With him. In country no one had a name for yet. They had no map for it. They drew their own. And that, friend, is the story of the night a hand pressed against a man's chest in the dark, and a man whose heart should have stopped from fear stopped instead from something he did not have a word for. By the time he had a word for it, he no longer needed one.